Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Couldn't be more excited to film this video with my good friend Brad Kellner coming back to the people. Brad, I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you, man. And you know what? You got a different look. I don't know what the good city of Houston's doing over there, but how you doing, man? How you holding up over there, brother?
What are you talking about? Different look. I have no idea what you're talking about, Steven. Is something different with my face? Did I grow a little bit? Did I put on a few pounds? What are you talking about?
That no shave November,
Hmm.
man. We out here.
Yeah, there's a reason I work in radio, Steven. People usually don't have to see me, and that's a good thing. For the other 11 months of the year, it's a very good thing in the month of November. But now everything's good down here, man. It's good to see you. Glad to be back on this channel. I appreciate the invite and ready to talk some Texas basketball, my man.
Absolutely. Ready to talk Texas basketball. Want to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, the official sportsbook, official betting partner of Fanatic Perspective, BUSR. Guys, check out busr.com/fanatic. Hit that sports 100 FP promo code, bonus free play 100%, matching all deposits on there. busr.com/fanatic. Hook a brother up. Also, I want you guys to go subscribe right now. Brad Kellner has a YouTube channel. He's always on there. I know he's busy with ESPN Houston and he's a celebrity now covering Houston Astros and their big run, but he still talks to the people. Still, communicates with us, our traditional Texas fan base. So go subscribe to Brad Kellner's YouTube channel. And as you guys can see, we still rocking the all gas, no brakes. Brad's made some modifications to his based upon the football season.
Yeah, I had to. I did this like 3 weeks ago after the Oklahoma game, and still it rings true. 3 games later, we're half gas, half brakes. We're gas in the first half, we're brakes in the second half. But mad love and respect to Last Stand hats. They make great UT hats, not just the all gas, no brakes. Any sort of Texas hat you're looking for, make sure you use that promo code that Steven was nice enough to throw down there on the screen. BK10, you'll get 10% off your purchase of any Last Stand hat. But Steven, I know you know Mike, great dude, big UT fan, the guy who founded this company. So holiday season coming up. If you want to hook up the Longhorn fans in your life,
Absolutely.
laststandhats.com.
Mike, we can't wait to see the basketball gear, brother. So bless us. That's
Yeah,
all I got to say.
absolutely.
So we are going, exciting times, Brad. We got Texas basketball. As the time we're recording this, it is Monday. So tomorrow we kick off or tip off with Houston Baptist, right? And then, before we even get into the men's side of the house, I do want to show some love to the ladies who are led by Coach Vic Schaefer. Brad, they are ranked 25, and I know they lost a bit, but just what's the outlook? What's the vibe with the women's program coming into this season?
I don't know how you can't be excited about the Texas women's basketball team under the direction of Vic Schaefer with what he was able to pull off in year one, taking a 6 seed to the Elite Eight. Reasons for optimism are through the roof right now for this Texas women's team. A lot of roster turnover. They, of course, lose Charlie Collier, who was the #1 overall pick in the WNBA draft. She's not going to be easy to replace. A couple of transfers left the program, too. You generally get that type of attrition when you have a new head coach in any sport, but Schaefer brought in some transfers. He's killing it on the recruiting trail as well. It feels like sky's the limit for this team. So we'll see if it all clicks this year, because once again, they lost a lot. They have to replace a lot from last year's squad, but man, it's hard to not be excited as heck about the future of Texas women's basketball with Vic Schaefer calling the shots.
It's in good hands, and credit to Chris Del Conte and the hires that are being made, which is another reason why we have patience with the football program, regardless of the current frustrations that we're in. Vic Schaefer, right, turning things around last season, like he said, but now he's recruiting his own ladies into the program, finding his own talent. They end up with a top 5 recruiting class led by Aaliyah Moore coming out of the state of Oklahoma. So really excited to see, her development, some of the other young ladies, like the guard Harmon that they got. So as they develop some of those ladies and he starts to shape the identity of his program, consistently having this team ranked. We know now, Brad, and I think we were talking about before, when he has talent, and it wasn't even his talent, but when he has all these ladies, they can make a run in March. And that's where college basketball
Yeah.
is really made, right? Is in March.
Yeah, we saw that last year at Texas, but we also saw that for a number of years when Schaefer was at Mississippi State, right? Led a massive upset over UConn in the Final Four. They played for a national championship under Vic Schaefer. They were a perennial deep tournament run type of team when he was in Stark Vegas. So with the resources coming to UT, all of the money that comes in through UT, they'll obviously be playing at the Moody Center next year too. So they're going to reap the benefits of the new practice facility and the new gym. Texas women's basketball feels like it's on the up and up. And they've got a very similar start to the season that the men's team does, Stephen. So the women's team opens up tomorrow against New Orleans, kind of a tune-up game. And then on Sunday, at number 3 Stanford. You want to talk about women's basketball powerhouse.
Defending
Stanford
champs.
has been there for a long, long time, defending champs. Yeah, they're legit always. So kind of like the men's team has to travel to the Kennel to take on Gonzaga this weekend in game 2. The women's team going to be tested very early in Palo Alto, taking on a loaded Stanford team. So we'll learn a lot about these ladies very early in the season.
Yep, and when they get around to Big 12 play, they won't at least have to deal with the thorn in their side traditionally in the Big Bad Wolf, who is now gone to Baton Rouge. And shout out to Kim Mulkey. You know, she did make it to the Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah,
but she did leave Baylor. So some areas of opportunity for Texas women's basketball. Exciting times under Vic Schaefer.
Yeah, I feel like Vic Schaefer is the only Texas person who's pissed about the move to the SEC. Because he's like, oh, Kim Mulkey's gone. I don't have to deal with her anymore. Oh, wait, now I'm about to go join her conference. We're going to have to play her every single year again. So, yeah, an opportunity for Texas to win the Big 12 before they make the move to the SEC. But unfortunately, we're going to be having to deal with Kim Mulkey relatively often in the not-too-distant future once again.
Indeed. So, Brad, I want to transition over to the men's side of the house because while we do have some familiar faces in the program, it's a whole new energy. It's a whole new day, a whole new era under the leadership of Chris Beard, the assistant coaching staff he's put together. And we know that he flat out, using a football term, he blitzed the portal. Without a doubt, blitzed the portal. He's now having success in the recruiting classes from a high school standpoint. I've loved everything about what Chris Beard is bringing to the program. And I know it's still kind of the honeymoon phase. We go through this with all Texas coaches.
Yep.
However, it is in a different type of place because we watched him establish himself in our conference. He's gone from the alum to the enemy to our coach. So I'll let you take it away there just in terms of the outlook with Chris Beard.
Yeah, I've been a huge fan of Chris Beard for a number of years, and I was ecstatic when Texas made the hire. Look, Chris Beard has done 3 things really, really well that will benefit him at the University of Texas. Number 1, like you said, Stephen, he's won in the Big 12. He's not like making the jump from a mid-major to a Power 5. He's already done that, and he's already had a bunch of success in the Power 5. Number 2, he's done well in the state of Texas. He's recruited the state very well. This is a loaded basketball state. I know it's football first always in the Lone Star State.
Very underrated basketball state.
Agreed. And there's never been more talent in the state of Texas basketball-wise than there is right now. I mean, the high schools, the prep, everything in the state is better than it ever has been. So you're really going to need to take advantage of the kids here in this state. And honestly, you can win a national championship with just Texas kids alone. So we've seen him win in the conference. We've seen him win in the state, both in terms of recruiting and obviously in terms of results. And the most important thing, Stephen, you brought it up a couple of minutes ago, he's won in March. This is a guy who has had success in the most important time of the year, leading Texas Tech to overtime in a national championship game. They also had another Elite 8 run too, a consistent tournament team. That was the biggest knock on Shaka Smart, right? 6 years, 0 tournament wins. Chris Beard has loaded up his tournament resume everywhere he's been. So those 3 reasons right there, even before he blitzed the portal, to use your term, those were reasons for me to be optimistic. And yeah, the way he constructed this roster, plenty of reasons to be excited about Texas. And there's a damn good reason why they're in the top 5 to open up the year.
Absolutely. And when you look at the highs and the lows of last season under Shaka Smart, and it's one of those things where it's like, all right, we got to part ways, and it kind of worked out for everybody. I think Shaka's in a better situation for him, what he wants to do. But I also look at it from a standpoint of his relationship with Chris Beard and how they've kind of handed the keys over with Chris Del Conte. And I think that's important outside of basketball. When you're dealing with good people, Shaka's a good person, Chris Beard's a good person, Christo, like, and they're putting the kids first. I think that's why this change of power and this ease of transition was so good. And I love the way that they're starting to bring guys back into the program. Guys like TJ Ford, just really getting them more acclimated with traditional Texas basketball, where Chris Beard came from, right? In terms
Yeah.
of, growing up here too. So all those things are critical. But Chris Beard is a new age college basketball coach. And what I mean by that is, I grew up, I watched a lot of North Carolina basketball and Roy Williams. Roy Williams is leaving the sport, or left the sport. Mike Krzyzewski's getting ready to leave the sport. I believe this is last season, right? As head coach at Duke. So those guys grew up where I get my kids in and I develop them 3-4 years, and then they go to the NBA their junior year or whatever, or wherever they're going to go, right? But I get 3-4 years of usage, and I'm building this team over time. Then we went into the one and done era, and now we're in an era where they're competing with the G League, they're competing with overseas options, and now they have the transfer portal. And I think that was one of the things that kind of drove Roy out of the sport. But Chris Beard, since he's been at Tech, has been like, I was born in the portal. I love the portal. I build my team every, boom, 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 boom. So having a more progressive coach in that particular sense with where the sport is trending is crucial. Is crucial. And that's why Texas is getting, because I know a lot of people may say, Steve, Brad, how are they ranked top 5 with, we know what Chris Beard did at Tech, and we know, some of these guys are holdovers from the previous team, but a lot of them like collectively, why are they a top 5 team? Can you speak to that, Brad?
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a bunch of good points right there, and Chris Beard just gets it right. He understands how today's college basketball works, both in terms of recruiting and in terms of the portal. And to go to your point, I mean, how many times last year, Stephen, did we talk about it being such an important year for not only Shaka Smart, but also Texas basketball? Like, you looked at last year's roster and you're like, damn, they might lose 4, 5, 6 key contributors from this squad. They better get it done this year, because this roster is going to be completely different in 21, 22. Like, when Chris Beard got hired, there was not a lot of buy-in from the current guys on the roster. I mean, you really only knew Brock Cunningham was coming back, right? Like, Andrew Jones hadn't decided yet. Courtney Ramey hadn't decided yet. Obviously, you were losing Greg Brown and Matt Coleman and Jericho Sims and a bunch of important cats from last year's team. So it looked kind of bleak roster-wise at the start of this thing. But because Beard attacked the portal as much as he did, that's why this team is loaded. And it's not only just bodies. I mean, these guys are all conference players at previous destinations. You bring in, I don't even know where to start. You bring in Trey Mitchell, who averaged nearly 20 points per game for UMass, an all-conference caliber player last year. You bring in Dylan Disu, who's a local kid, played in the Pflugerville area, SEC leading rebounder at Vanderbilt, but also averaged 15 points per game. You bring in Timmy Allen, first-team All-Pac-12 player last year, coming in from Utah. Devin Askew, the point guard transfer from Kentucky, former 5-star, a guy who reclassified, so could have been a senior in high school last year and was starting. And it was a down year for Kentucky, and Askew had some trouble, but still to start at point guard at a place like Kentucky, pretty
and
damn
the reps
good.
he got.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of experience there. So there are more guys too, but like just bringing in guys like that with experience, and not like Texas football brought in some dudes who had played at high level programs, right? Like Ben Davis and Ovi Agofu and Ray Thornton. But those guys like didn't do a lot at their previous destinations. These guys all did a ton at their previous destinations. So it's crazy. We were talking about last year's team, Stephen, being the most talented Texas roster maybe in a decade. Chris Beard, in the span of one offseason, upped the talent level from last year to this year. But there are questions, and I know we'll get to that a little bit later.
So one of the guys, because you mentioned a slew of names, because the roster is so different, right? So one of the guys coming in, and I think this is kind of where I want to start, because I think the strength is what you identified. Credibility. Timmy Allen brings you credibility. Dylan Disu brings you credibility, right? Trey Mitchell, we know they can play. It's not a mystery. It's not like, no disrespect to Greg Brown, but it's different balling at Vandergrift than it was at the University of Texas, and clearly he needed more time. I'm happy the brother's doing what he's doing for the Portland Trail Blazers. Salute. But he wasn't ready day one, you're clearly, right? And so
Mhm.
that's not the case with a Timmy Allen, who I can already come in day one and run half my offense through the mid post in terms of how he plays,
Yeah.
right? And so, and I still get, so let's talk about the people coming back. I still get Andrew Jones and I get Courtney Ramey. So let's start with those two.
Mhm.
Because we know we got Brock Cunningham, we know we have Jace Febris, but I look at them more as complementary pieces, one defensively, one as a shooter. Jones and Ramey it was the best of times and it was the worst of times between those two.
Yep.
And we've talked about it. We've talked about on on both of our channels about, the altercation they got into and how that more so impacted Courtney Ramey because Andrew Jones kept balling. But I feel like Chris Beard had a win getting them back in itself because there still needs to be some identity, at least to from a transition to hold things together. I think initially playing at Texas, understanding the environment, understanding the conference, because I think we'll touch on some of the things they'll have to navigate in the conference. I think that's a strength. Now, where my first concern is this: there's one basketball, and there's a big name we have not mentioned yet,
Yeah.
and it's Marcus Carr. And Marcus Carr is coming in there, and I feel like this is a guy who people are talking about is Big 12 newcomer of the year, got that on lock over the Timmy Allens and the Trey Mitchells and some of the other guys that have come into the conference with other schools. That's how highly regarded Marcus Carr is held, even in some NBA circles. One basketball.
Yeah.
And you got Devin Askew hanging out as well. How will Chris Beard manage all of this?
That's the biggest question. And I'm mad at myself for running down that list of transfers and not even mentioning Marcus Carr, who's probably the best. Yeah, I was saving him for you. I wanted to give you the love and the credit of bringing up Marcus Carr's name. That's a big question, though, right? I mean, it's just chemistry in general with this team. You're talking about a bunch of studs, guys who have been successful at previous destinations, but these guys haven't played together for more than a couple of months. So, like, how quickly will this team figure it out? I think by the important time of the year, they're going to have it figured out. But how quickly can these guys mesh and gel and figure out roles and also figure out in clutch situations, like who's going to be taking the last shot? Because you've got more than a couple of candidates on this team to get you a bucket in crunch time. So that's the biggest question for this basketball team. The talent is there. You feel good about Chris Beard and this entire coaching staff. He put together a bomb staff, able to convince a couple of guys to leave head coaching gigs to come be assistants in Austin. That's damn near unheard of. So you feel good about the people who are there, but how quickly can the people work together? That's the big question. I will say this, Stephen, in regards to your Marcus Carr concern, and I don't know if you're really concerned about it, but if you watch him play at Minnesota and you're worried about there only being one ball here, that's very fair, because that dude – kind of a ball hog at times, but he had to be. Like, there just wasn't a lot. Yeah, there wasn't a lot around him at Minnesota. And like, he was always relied upon to take and make the big shots for Richard Pitino up there in Minnesota. So he doesn't have to do that here. The question is, how quickly can it change? How about this? The scrimmage, the blowout win over Texas Lutheran last week, 7 assists for Marcus Carr. He only took 3 shots. I like to see that. Now, I want Marcus Carr taking more than 3 shots, and he will take more than 3 shots more often than not. But like the 7 assists right there, that's big. That tells me that he's willing to not have to be the guy all of the time. He's willing to put his ego to the side and say, I want to win a national championship. I'm going to do what's best for the team. And I think we're going to see that. But still, the concern with all of these guys is you've got a bunch of alphas on this squad. How quickly and how willing will they be to not be the man all of the time? We'll have to wait and see.
This is something you see at all levels of basketball. This is something that the Los Angeles Lakers are trying to figure out. Not that they got Bron, obviously, but in terms of incorporating a Russell Westbrook and all these different personalities. And Texas is going to have to do the same thing with Marcus Carr. Now, Marcus Carr, 2 things I would say. You came here for a reason. Clearly, you want to show you can win. Clearly, you want to show the NBA you can run real offense as a traditional point guard. Yeah, we know you can average 18 points somewhat efficiently, sometimes inefficiently, but can you run an offense? When you're playing with other talented guys, do you make other guys better? Those are questions that everybody should have. And what are you willing to sacrifice? Because I'll tell you this, the Baylor kids, Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, those kids last year, even Flagler, they'll ask Flagler to do more this year. But last year, everybody had to pick a role. It was like, look, I know all you brothers want to handle the ball
Yeah.
and everything, but eventually Davion Mitchell kind of turned into the pit bull. And then in certain moments, that's when he stepped up and started making, especially mid-range and all that. But Jared Butler was running a lot of offense because that's what they decided, and those are the roles that were established. People made sacrifices. A lot of you guys, Andrew Jones, you handled the ball a ton last year. We needed you to. Are you willing to stand in the corner sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you're not going to be asked to be doing the same things because we have so much going on. And I think over time, I agree with you. I think we'll figure it out. I will say this. I think we need to have fair expectations through the first third of the season to let the staff and let the kids figure that out.
Yeah, I like that take a lot. I mean, they've got this tough test this Saturday against Gonzaga, and it's a top 5 matchup against a team that played for a national championship last year. So all eyes are going to be locked in on Texas Gonzaga on Saturday night, but you shouldn't put too much stock into that game. Like either way, like if Texas wins, obviously you feel great about this team's chances to do something special this season. But if they lose, it's like, well, it's the second game and it's a bunch of guys who have never played together on the road in a hostile environment against that team with a bunch of returners from a squad that once again played for a national title last year. I will say though, like outside of Gonzaga, Steven, the non-con schedule, pretty conducive for Texas to figure some things out and figure out roles and where guys need to be. There's just not a lot. I think Chris Beard's going to add and CDC is going to add in the future and make the non-con slate very, very appealing and sexy. But this year for Texas, you don't have a ton of like really, really tough non-conference games. So hopefully that allows you to figure things out as the calendar turns and you get into conference play when we know it's going to be a bloodbath.
I'm excited for this team defensively. I want to see the one thing I think that they'll be able to hang their hat on early, even in the Gonzaga game, like things I am looking to see. Chris Beard, what they sell in terms of defensive intensity, just intensity in general, right? And that's why, they love Brock Cunningham so much and putting his face on stuff. And I don't know how much Brock will play night to night, but I know how that's the identity and the intensity he's looking for from the entire basketball team, right? And I think that's something that can, at least while they figure out the offense and figure out who's doing what, no matter what 5 they have out there and the professionalism they have, even a guy, Christian Bishop, who's going to be more of like that dirty work type dude. All these type of guys they weave in, I think that defensive intensity will be on point. I think that's something else we saw in the scrimmage right off the bat. It's like, oh, y'all going to pick up, okay.
Yeah.
We're going to get into each other, like we saw at Tech. We got so annoyed playing Tech, especially Matt Coleman and them trying to handle the basketball. Like it was annoying, right? And so seeing that here with this group and as deep as they are, he also knew he needed the horses to be able to play basketball that way too, because it is a lot of energy being exerted. Conference play, I think something else to look at is Kansas. I think right now is what, number 2 or number 3?
Number 3.
Number 3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Kansas is going to be very, very good. We talked about Gonzaga, on Saturday, and I agree with you. I think you look at some of the data from that game, but you don't, I don't feel terrible either way, whatever happens. I'm more intrigued.
Yeah.
Gonzaga might have the number 1 pick in the draft on their team, and Chet Holmgren coming in over there, who's 7'1", and he's playing next to Drew Timme, who is the wooden favorite, rightfully so. And they have still all those guards, from before minus Jalen Suggs. So that's going to be interesting to see Texas match up against. But this is one data point I want to see, because this is the last. I love this team, Brad, but I know I feel like I'm kind of being a bad guy bringing up weaknesses and stuff. Size. I have Trey Mitchell, who's 6'9", and where Dessou is 6'9", but he's more a perimeter guy. Like, where's the beef, right? And I think my biggest guy is 220. So I'm going against Gonzaga right off the bat. Drew Timme's a big man.
Mm-hmm.
Chet Holmgren's a big man, right?
Yeah.
And when we talk about Kansas, they have McCormick playing center down low. So some of these teams are going to present some matchups where I'm curious as to how we counter that with our bigs.
Yeah, no, that's a fair criticism or a fair concern, I should say. And the good news is
Concern.
Texas has a lot of depth, right? Both backcourt and front court. So when you think of being undersized going into a matchup, you're worried that your bigs are going to get eaten alive, but also get in foul trouble. Good news is Texas has a lot of bodies that they can throw at some of the bigger guys on their schedule. Gonzaga and Kansas, though, they're different. Like, that's not the norm in college basketball. I get that those are two top 3 teams, and look, if you want to make a deep run in March, you're going to have to beat teams like Gonzaga and or Kansas to get there. But like, most teams don't have the size that those
That's a
two
good point.
have. So it's fair. It is a little nerve-wracking. Christian Bishop, I think, is the guy who's probably going to be relied upon to be very good defensively down low against other teams' best big men. But you're right. That will be a test for Texas to see how they handle size. Because if you're looking at this roster on paper, that's probably your biggest concern. And you brought up Trey Mitchell being 6'9", one of the tallest guys on the team. Trey Mitchell's not a good defender. Like, I won't sugarcoat it. Like, he got worked a little bit in the Texas Lutheran scrimmage. There were some things I saw from him at UMass, but also even things I saw in that scrimmage against a D3 team that I was like, all right, like, even if that guy buys in, I'm not sure it's just a buy-in thing for him. Like, I don't know if he has quick enough feet or enough build on that frame to be a solid defensive player, let alone a really good defensive player. So worried about that. Worried about Devin Askew defensively too. I know he's a guard, but yeah, that is a fair concern, no doubt. Worrying about maybe the lack of beef, like you were talking about, going back to the '80s Wendy's commercials.
But the thing is, the cool part is we're nitpicking.
Yeah,
because I feel like I'm going to get the best version of Courtney Ramey from. I said this last year before Chris Beard got here. I was like, I think we were previewing Texas Tech, and I was like, Courtney Ramey feels like a Texas Tech type dude. And I feel like those are the type of players, those raw, physical, emotional college basketball players that he loves. And it's going to be really, really interesting. And you're right. I think when you're dealing with Kansas, sure, they got McCormick or whatever. But for the most part, these schools are more guard forward heavy. So that concern is more so with particular matchups than it is, oh, we're going to get exploited with this throughout the season. I don't see that being the case with this team. I think this team is actually going to surprise people shooting the basketball. I think they're going to be a better shooting team than – because I think that's something that if I'm Andrew Jones, I want to show the NBA that I can be a spot-up shooter. I can play off the catch. Courtney Ramey, 41% from last year. We know how up and down he was, but he can shoot it. Dessou might be your best, him or Febris. So you got all these guys. I think they're going to surprise people shooting the basketball.
Yeah, I could see that happening too. Look, we talk about all these guys, we talk about all these players, and there's reasons to be optimistic about this roster. But if Shaka Smart was coaching all of these guys, I wouldn't feel that good about this team. Like, you brought up Chris Beard and thinking that he's going to be able to get the best out of these dudes. I really think he's going to be able to do that. So that's the most exciting part about all of this thing for me. But yeah, I'm with you in terms of shooting. Look, Courtney Ramey was a 40+% three-point shooter last year. If you tell me he's going to shoot 41% from deep again, I will take it. Andrew Jones at times was a knockdown three-point shooter. If you tell me you're going to get that from him more consistently this year, I will absolutely take it, because I feel like there's going to be opportunities for guys to get open looks in this offense. If there is a question with Chris Beard, it is on the offensive end of the floor. Now, you're still upgrading from Shaka to Chris Beard, but like the last couple of years at Texas Tech, the biggest knock on Tech and why they couldn't get back to the national championship game was because, well, just offensively, they weren't scoring enough. But I like the motion offense that Chris Beard runs. The ball movement is going to be there. The spacing, I think, is going to be a lot better for this team than what we've seen in years past. But yeah, it is going to be on some of these guys to knock down those opportunities when they get them, because I do think those opportunities are going to be there for this squad. So I hope you're right. I like that prediction that this team's going to be a better shooting team this year, because we've all been frustrated by the lack of shooters that this program has had for going on more than a decade now at this point. But you've got some strong three-point shooting candidates, and I do think this offense and all of the talent on this roster is going to open up some knockdown three-point opportunities. So it's going to be up to these guys to make it happen.
I think, too, what can help is that, and this was a big frustration of mine with Shaka, was they didn't care about mid-range. They were playing almost too much of the Daryl Morey, Houston Rockets drive and kick or shoot threes, right? So one of the things I learned from Baylor last year, to be honest with you, Baylor was so good mid-range. All those guys, even Matthew Mayer, who's still there, who I just, he's an MM, but I call him mismatch because he's 7 foot, but he can handle, and his midi game is tough. But Davion Mitchell, midi game, Jared Butler, midi. I think now that I got people like Timmy Allen, who not everybody. The thing is, if your mid-range game is good and you're mastering all parts of this, and I know it's the lost art in basketball these days, but doesn't that give me better opportunities to take better three-point shots?
Yeah, hypothetically it does. And look, the good news is there's no Baylor or Gonzaga this year. Like those two teams were head and shoulders above
Yeah.
everybody else in college basketball last year. And if you had either of these two teams going into this year, they would be head and shoulders above everybody else. Like the combination of the COVID eligibility waiver and just all the experience that those guys were able to build up and the one-time transfer rule made those teams really special. But yeah, I mean, hypothetically, you will see this team attack the mid-range. They have a couple of guys who I think could feast from that area. Timmy Allen, I think, could score from there. I think Trey Mitchell, we saw some of that. We really saw him score at all three levels in the Texas Lutheran game. I think he could be a guy to score from there as well. We've seen it from Courtney Ramey and Andrew Jones at times during their Texas career. So, yeah, I hope this is not a Daryl Morey. You got to jack up 43s a game to feel like you have a chance to win. I don't think it's going to be like that, and I don't think that maximizes the strengths of this roster.
BK, what are your expectations for the season overall?
Oh, man. Final Four or bust, dude. National championship or bust. If they don't win it all, I'm going to be pissed. No, I'm kidding. I jokingly say this, but I don't jokingly say this because for years I've been mad at Texas basketball fans for just showing apathy towards the program. And like people just – there was a thought that if Shaka Smart won one tournament game this past season, he would have kept his job, and that would have been enough for him to keep his job. And I'm like, really? Have we stooped to this level to where one tournament win in 6 years is like good enough? Like y'all are cool with that? That's what you expect from your basketball program? And it wasn't enough for me. And now you've got Texas fans saying, oh, my God, they better make it to the Final Four. This year's going to be a failure in year one of a new coach. But look, I'm happy the expectations are high. And Chris Beard, when he got this job at his introductory press conference, he kind of let him hang a little bit, Steven. And he's like, don't put an asterisk by year one. Don't say, oh, he doesn't have his players. Give him time to get his guys in and then judge him. He's like, no, we want to compete for a national championship this year. He talked about playing in that Monday night game this year. A lot of people were like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Especially considering the roster at that point when Beard took the job. And now people are like, all right. So Chris Beard, in the span of months, without even playing a game, has raised the expectation level for Texas. So you asked me what my expectations are. Look, I think this team should be a second weekend tournament team. Anything beyond that is gravy. But Texas hasn't made a Sweet 16 since 2008, Steven.
Right.
Now, you look at a team that starts in the top five, and, of course, there's Final Four potential on this squad. There's national title potential on this squad. But for me, it's like, man, get to the second weekend first, and then we could talk about all of that. So I think this team is going to compete for the Big 12 championship. I do. The conference is loaded. Kansas is awesome. Baylor's still really good despite losing some key figures. West Virginia is going to be a problem. Texas Tech is still not going anywhere. They got a couple of good transfers too. Oklahoma State, despite losing Cade, like there's still a lot in this conference, but I do think this is a team that could and probably will be a top 2 or 3 team at worst in the Big 12. And then I expect them to be like a top 2 or 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. And well, if that happens, you're going to be expected to do good things. So for me, it's just get to the second weekend. That would be a step in the right direction for the program. But Steven, I can't get mad at people for thinking this team can make a legit run to the third weekend of the tournament because they have all of the pieces in place to do that.
I am 100% on board with where you're at. And I like the fact that you didn't say we should win the Big 12 either, right? In terms of you left that margin there in terms of top, because it's out of respect to A, the defending champs in Baylor, and B, a team with Bill Self that has so much credibility, and especially how he's recruited, what he has coming back at Kansas. So it's going to be a toss-up between us. I think we do have enough talent and enough experience with Chris Beard as a coach in this conference to compete. Now, the coaches in this conference are really good. I mean, OU added Porter Moser, who I love, right? That he's going to be a problem over there. So maybe not year one, but there's really, really good coaching here. I think it's imperative that we have some offensive success year one from a recruiting standpoint to keep that momentum going and to really kind of dispel some of those things that were perceived as issues at Texas Tech. Most importantly is winning, right? I'm not going to get into too much style and things of that. We know that a lot of us, Texas also hasn't been the most aesthetically pleasing team to watch play basketball.
Yeah.
But if we can get a team that plays hard and can make shots and just play with more common sense, if that makes sense,
yeah,
then
that'd be an upgrade.
That's an upgrade, right?
Yeah.
And so these are things that we're looking to see. In regards to the NCAA tournament, second weekend in gravy. I'm with you because the tournament can be tricky. We start talking matchups. We start talking about who's hot, who's not. There's always a player that nobody's ever heard of that just comes out of nowhere. There's some teams with some super freshmen. Duke has super freshmen on their team. Emily Bates reclassified. Now he's on Memphis. So now you got these players all over the place who will develop by March that have a lot of talent too, we're talking about top 5 NBA player types. So you never know. So I'm with you. I think getting to that second weekend is important. But Chris Beard can also stand back and say, don't judge me or don't take year one for granted because it's not football. And I think Texas fans, we have to understand the way you can rebuild basketball and some of these other sports, you cannot compare the two. You really can't.
Yeah, especially with the portal and the one-time transfer rule. But look, I mean, you're talking about 12 scholarship spots to fill on a roster versus 85 in football. So, and Chris Beard, I don't think he would have said the things that he said at his introductory press conference if he didn't think this was a possibility, that he was going to be able to attack the portal as much as he did and put together a championship caliber roster. So, yeah, I mean, it's still pretty unprecedented what Beard did, but I don't disagree with you at all. There's a way to turn a college basketball program around much quicker than there is college football just because of the size of the roster.
Absolutely. Guys, y'all let us know in the comments how you feel about this season. We tip off tomorrow night. Time to hoop.
I got my Mo Bamba free student section shirt. From I don't even think I was a student actually when I got this. I don't know how I have this or if I'm supposed to have this. Yeah, because Bamba was there after I was, but
it was pre-stash.
Time to hoop. Yeah. Thank God. That's 22 more days of the stash, Steven. I can't wait to get this little caterpillar off my face, man. It is gross.
You've been combing that thing, man. Make sure you get that thing sanitized, brother.
Put a pick in this thing and just have it hanging out the side. We're getting there. So bad.
Speaking of students, though, that's actually a good thing to end off with. This team, Chris Beard has the audacity to believe that Texas can be a basketball school. He has the audacity to dream, Moody Center coming, all that. But the tickets that have been sold, the season ticket, I believe I heard that they broke the attendance record or tickets sold, before the season, pre-ticket sales. All of the momentum, the engagement that he's having with the students, because he understands, hey, college basketball, we talk about college football atmosphere and environment. College basketball can be a whole nother level in that intimate environment, students on top. We never, ever get that at Irwin. I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but I don't ever see people coming to Austin talking about, man, Irwin, I couldn't hear myself at the free throw line,
No. Never.
That's not the case.
Never. Now, fear the flan. We want people to fear the flan, Steven. That's it. The last year of the Irwin Center, make it a memorable one. And Chris Beard, from day one, he's talked about wanting to get the students involved. I read that if the students fill up the student section for tomorrow's season opener, he's going to throw an on-campus party. He convinced CDC and President Hartzell, he's like, if we fill up the 1,041 or whatever it is student seats for the opener against HBU, we're going to supply everything. We're going to have food. We're going to have drinks. We're going to have fun on campus. So
nice.
He's putting his money where his mouth is, if you could say something like that. But it's not just lip service. He really wants to do whatever he possibly can to make the Irwin Center a tough place to play and make Austin a feared destination for road teams. Because I'm with you. It hasn't been there. And there's been a lot of apathy towards this program, to use a word that I used a little bit earlier. That's starting to change already. But if this team has the success that I think it will, and that Chris Beard thinks it will, then that is going to change, and people are going to be really, really excited about this basketball program.
Chris Beard making Texas a basketball school.
Oh,
We'll see how
man.
he does.
Come on now. We're everything but a football school right now, Steven. It pains me to say, but like everything else has their ish together, and then we've got 4 and 5 Texas football.
Facts. It's sad. We got a Director's Cup, almost despite the football program.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, granted, they were ranked top 20, so it weren't terrible. But once football comes around, Chris Del Conte, he can stick his chest out with anybody. He can already do that now. But Chris Beard has the audacity. Whether he'll ever get there or not, that's a whole nother thing. Coach Pierce probably feels the same way about his baseball program, knowing the success they've had. But at the end of the day, this is exciting times. And I'm even more excited. I got to talk to my friend Brad today. So thanks for coming on. This was dope. And let's check in. You got to have me on your channel so we can do some check-in or some lives and talk to the people, man.
Yeah,
so,
no doubt. Nah, great to see you, man. Y'all are killing it. You and Trent always bringing great content to the people. I've been a loyal sub for a while now. I love what you guys do, and I'm honored to be a part of this channel, man. So I appreciate the invite, and can't wait for the start of the season, man, and can't wait for our next video together too, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you to our sponsor, busr.com/fanatic. Hit that promo code in there, sports100FP. It is a 5-time rollover promo, but they're matching 100% all free plays in there. Appreciate everybody showing us some love. busr.com/fanatic. That's where you sign up. Brad, thank you so much. Guys, remember, horns always up.